Hi, hello. It's nice to see you. I'm glad you could make it. And welcome to the very first video of 2025. And it just felt right after the full year, my very first full year spent on YouTube, to do a final wrap up and a final tier ranking for every single book I read in the year of 2024. I 110% got this idea from Sarah. She's been doing it for the last couple of years. And I think it's such a good way to look back on everything that has been read. All the book covers have been downloaded. A tier list has been created. I'm gonna put the link for the tier ranking thing I used down below so you can make your own if you're interested in that, because I think this is a fun way to look back at your year of books. A little bit of housekeeping going into 2025. It was actually like a year ago right now, like last January, that I decided I wanted to be on here more and make more of a focus on long form content and being on YouTube, which has been like a dream for as long as I can even remember. Like I have, since I was a small child, wanted to be on YouTube. So dramatic, but like I would dare say that that's pretty well true. And I always was scared to make the jump, and I really decided last January that I was going to do it, and that's where I thought that I would feel the most creatively fulfilled. And can I say it 100% is. However, it means that I have officially in some capacity been actually doing YouTube for a year now, and I don't have the words to say thank you. I do not have the words to tell you how much that I love you. It's with everything in me, truly every single fiber of my being. And after doing Bookmas and everything, I definitely took quite a little bit of a break to like reflect. I think the best thing about being a human is being able to look back and realize some of your pitfalls, and I definitely had some emotional pitfalls when it came to my expectation of myself existing on the internet. That being said, after a lot of reflecting and chatting with people in my life who like were really with me day to day and saw it, the only thing that is really going to be changing is there will be no more Sunday uploads, which trust me, I am heartbroken about. I wish that I could be the type of person who could have a posting schedule and still live a normal life, but I am the type of person that was counting my life down in Sundays and stressed out the following Sunday the time Monday came around, and I just don't think that is the healthiest way for me to have a perfect life balance and to not burn out, because I definitely burnt out a little bit last year. However, it was a goal to post every single Sunday last year, and I did a pretty good job with it, but I'm hoping it means that I'm on here more, not less. I'm just gonna be nicer to myself. I'm not gonna like stay up till 4 a.m. to finish the book every single time, to then spend 18 hours editing and then finally get it up. I'm gonna do it in a little bit more healthy of a way. A little bit of all aspects of it, reading, editing, filming, all in every single day is kind of the energy that I'm bringing into 2025. I also, after talking to you, want to put a bit of a bigger emphasis on non-just reading related stuff. I tested out doing a couple of like kind of more ordinary type of vlogs during Bookmas to see if that was something that I liked doing and that anybody wanted to see. And I've gotten a lot of feedback that you want to see more of that, and they've actually been very fun to film and to work on. So what to expect in 2025 is hopefully more uploads, if not the same amount, just not on Sundays, just when they are done, and a little bit of a more range of stuff for me, not necessarily just reading vlog, which I'm excited about. I think that 2024 was such a warm-up year for me of getting comfortable doing this and like kind of finding my groove, and I really feel going into 2025 that this is going to be our year, and I don't really have the words to explain it, but I am excited, and I'm so excited to spend this next year reading with you. That being said, I've just already jibber-jabbered on for far too long. It is officially time to tier rank every single book that we read in the year of 2024. I have never actually screen recorded something before, so if I start doing this and the whole video is just it didn't work out, it's gonna be a very humbling experience. It says it's recording. Watch me film this entire thing and it not be. I mean, I guess if you're watching this, it obviously did. Me and technology, we don't totally get along. Okay, I have everything broken into like a couple of tiers, a couple of different places. Not necessarily 100% by rating, because I could really, really love a book and then completely forget that I read it. You know, like I would still recommend it to you, and I did in that moment. I stand by my opinion. But if you ask me, I do not remember reading it. This is gonna be the year in review tier ranked. At our top rank, we have, there is a before this book me and an after this book me. I feel like I say that a lot, but it's books that I want injected into my veins, 6-star reads, God tier reads, Roman Empire reads, books that I will be without a doubt be carrying with me forward into the future, regardless of the rating, regardless of anything. This book stuck with me, will stick with me, and is a book I'm taking out of this year. And then we have no notes. I feel like that's my like really solid 5-star reads. Like I wouldn't change anything in it. I wouldn't do anything to change this book. I think it was great for what it was. It didn't leave like a crazy lasting impact on me, but literally no notes. I would not change a word, a sentence, a paragraph, a page, anything. Next we have would recommend, which are books that I really like. They just didn't change my life in any meaningful way. I just think that they're good books. You have amazing and great books, good books, not so great books, and bad books, and this is a good book. Next we have We Were Rooting for You, which are books that I just like, I really had so much hope going in. Okay, I was your biggest cheerleader. I really wanted this to be good, and you didn't necessarily land that hole in one. We Were Rooting for You, it's not bad. I wouldn't change my reading experience necessarily necessarily, just we were rooting for you. Then we have what I think may be a popular tier for me, because I've realized recently that if it doesn't leave a lasting impact with me, I literally don't remember reading this. I don't. I have no idea how we got here. I don't remember reading this. And then last but not least, we have I probably should have DNF'd this, which I have actually to this day still never DNF'd a book. It's actually a goal for 2025 that I can become a DNF'er, because there are books sometimes that I read and I'm like, I don't know why I subjected myself to that either. Like, I didn't enjoy it. It wasn't a fun experience. I should have just DNF'd it, but I have such a type A personality. Even if I'm 20 pages in, I know I'm gonna hate it. I'm like, it's a sunk cost. I may as well just finish it, which is redundant, because why would I continue doing something I don't enjoy when I know I'm not gonna enjoy it? I don't have an explanation for you. Side note, all of the books are in here. Our year wrapped up. We have all of the covers in here. They're not in order. I tried to download them in order. This site doesn't care. It just put it the way that it felt like putting it. However, there were some rereads this year. In total, I think I read like 107, 108 books, something like that. However, I have gone through this list 2 or 3 times and I cannot find the one book that is missing. There is one book that I read this year that is missing from this list, and I have cross-referenced them so many times I cannot figure out what book is missing. So maybe it'll dawn on me. However, there is one book that was read this year that is not in this list. Every single one of these books is in a reading vlog or a wrap-up somewhere, so I'm not going to get too much into the actual plot of the book, but I will explain briefly why they are being placed where they are. Our very first book to categorize is Phantasma by Kaylee Smith, which I actually read very recently, and I don't know, I do have notes. I do have a couple of notes. I would put this in would recommend. I think that's the best place that I can put it for now. I really liked what this book did. It is actually genuinely a darker Caraval. Like, it feels very adult. It read very adult. I think this book a little tiny bit found me at the wrong time. I was talking to the book club about this because this was our November book club read, and I was like, do I have to annotate it? Will I regret not annotating it? And a lot of them were like, it's really good, but I don't think it's like the most flowery writing. Like, you won't regret not annotating it. And I had been reading so much before picking this up that I was like, my hand hurts. I don't want to annotate anything. But I think it did take me out of the story in comparison to a book that I would have annotated. I listened to it like half on audio. I don't know. It kind of felt like something was missing, but I thought it was really good. Like, for what it was really good. I would recommend this book. I enjoyed it. I just think it kind of found me at the wrong time. However, I have a lot of hopes for the second book in the series, because like the world, the atmosphere, the writing, everything is there. I just didn't love it per se. Now we have our very first Christmas book, which is actually Cruel Winter with You by Ali Hazelwood. Honestly, I have no notes on this. I don't. I like would only want this to be longer. That's my only note. It was so good. It was cute. It's literally 70 pages, which like I feel like a good holiday novella to get to your reading goal, not a bad idea. Never a bad idea. I think this is actually like some of my favorite Ali Hazelwood characters. Like what she did in the 70 pages, I literally got to the end of it and cried at the end of 70 pages. And I was like, okay, we need to rein it in. Do we need an emotional check-in? Because literally why would characters you read about for 70 pages make you cry? But they did. I have no notes. I just wish it was longer. I wish these characters could have a renewal in some other kind of book. The next Christmas book, How My Neighbor Stole Christmas, I probably should have DNF'd this. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. I don't want a candy cane there. You were 500 pages too long. It was very repetitive. I did not like it. The more I sit on this book, this is my book club's December Christmas pick, and I think a lot of us felt kind of similarly, or people looked past it and like blindly enjoyed it, which I love that for you. I really wish that I could have blindly enjoyed this book. I just can't get out of my head that I spent 550 pages worth of my time reading that. It was, I wish I DNF'd it. I do. That's one that I thought about it in the moment and I was like, you're too deep, just finish it. Waste of time. All In by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This is the third book in the Natural series, and this is a god tier book. There is a before this book me and an after this book me, because The Naturals was good. Killer Instinct was good. The plot in All In, I saw so many people rate this one lower than the other ones because they said that the case was like kind of hard to follow and like convoluted, which I get. I do kind of understand that. No, I was so locked in on this. I listened to it on audio when I was doing a drive, and I literally finished the drive and sat in my bedroom with the book and read with the audiobook because that's how good it was. This case is so convoluted and so hard. The whole Natural series is basically a bunch of teenagers that have natural proclivities based on their previous traumas, which is like what makes it so good, is you learn so much about these characters and you care about them so much. They have natural proclivities to skills that the FBI would want. So they go into this naturals program instead of going to university to train in cold cases for the FBI, but it ends up not really being cold cases, and it's YA, so it's convenient. The cases have a lot to do with them in the end. It's just like, it's so well written. I love a good YA true crime ass mystery. Bad Blood, the last book in the series, I'm gonna put in no notes. I didn't like it as much as I liked All In, but I did still really like it. I think All In was just like a book that I read that I was like, I didn't even know this was possible. I didn't know I could feel this way about a book. I could be so locked in on a mystery, on a case. And Bad Blood is kind of just like a continuation on from All In, like it's the same case, kind of. And I just didn't love it as much. It was a teeny bit too long. Same with 12. It's a little novella that comes after Bad Blood. No, but like not life-changing. Okay, Heartstopper Volume 1. I'm gonna put in would recommend. I read this in a 24-hour reading video and I finished it and I was like, am I doing it wrong? Because I read this in an hour and a half and I really tried to take the time to look at the pictures. I don't know if I'm a graphic novel kind of person. I do want to keep reading along in the series, but I don't want to have that feeling again that I'm like, did I do it wrong? Like, I feel for the characters, but I'm not like obsessed. But it's just the first book of the series. Maybe I'll like it moving forward, but I want to get to the point that I can at least watch the first season of the show, which is I think like the 3rd volume, something like that. Lightlark by Alex Astor. I think that's a would recommend. Okay, this is another 24-hour culprit because I think that I could have really bought into this world if I was mentally fully there. Like, going into a fantasy after I read Sailor Remember Me, not a good choice. Literally not my best choice. This is actually from my most recent 24-hour reading video when I only read 2 books. Like, it was a failure. That was a failure of a 24-hour reading video. Not necessarily in page count. Still, reading 2 books in 24 hours is still crazy. If you told 13-year-old me that, she would not believe you. She would need photo evidence. But I was just so delirious by the end of Bookmas. This was just kind of a mess. I did like the world. I liked the tournament aspect. I just didn't love it. I'm curious how I'll feel moving forward because I feel like a lot of people love the first book and then it kind of falls off for them, or they don't love the first book and they really like moving forward in the series. And it's not even a trilogy now. There's gonna be more, isn't there? So it could still go way up from here. Okay, Daisy Hates. This is a reread, obviously. God tier books. I could just find all the Magnolia books and put them in God tier. Yeah, because there is a before Magnolia Parks Me and there's an after Magnolia Parks Me. It's my personality to a T. I'm not gonna elaborate because all of these books are gonna go here. I have now read the first 2 books in the series 3 times and then the last 3 2 times. So I'm in my 2nd read of Into the Dark. But listening to the audiobooks as a 3rd read for these is like my comfort. I do it every other month and I allow myself to just like listen to it at 1 time speed. The way that I am walking my dog at 1 in the morning just sobbing, mouthing along to quotes that I know by heart. Crazy behavior. It is. Daisy Darker by Alice Feeney. Honestly, no notes. I thought that this mystery was so good and I did not really anticipate the twist. I did like right before it happened, but it was a really good reveal. This is a really good thriller. I really liked Rock Paper Scissors by Alice Feeney and then I never picked anything else up by her. So then I finally picked this up in my reading thrillers video and I was shocked by how much I liked it. I love the way that Alice Feeney writes and the whole concept of this, like the fact that our main character is locked on an island because of a tide coming in with her whole family that she like doesn't get the best along with, and the way that the reveal happens. If you went back and read the book, it would just be so airtight. Like, looking back, the second the reveal happened, I was like, that was executed really well because the whole book still tracks perfectly, and I don't know how you wrote this many pages without it coming out. The Summer of Broken Rules by K.L. Walter is, I literally don't remember this. I remember not really liking it. I remember it not being my favorite thing ever. This is one of those books that I'm like, I'm just not a YA reader. I am a YA true crime-esque YA fantasy reader a lot of the times, but this felt so young and I just didn't care, and the writing felt young. I feel like when the writing feels very young, I have a hard time connecting, and I know a lot of people love this book. I know a lot of people love this romance. I thought it did basically nothing. A Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson. Honestly, I was really rooting for this one. I was, and it wasn't for me, and I don't remember totally why I don't love it. That's how much I blocked it out. But I also probably should have DNF'd it because I knew pretty early on. I'm gonna put it in We Were Rooting For You because I really was. This is recommended to me so much. This is a Dracula kind of retelling, but he's not named, but it is about Dracula if I'm not mistaken, and it's in the point of view of Constanza, his first wife. And this book tackled a lot. I don't know if it tackled it really well. Like, I didn't feel like the representation it was trying to give was represented perfectly per se. I didn't like it. Nothing happens. Like, I really felt like I was doing something wrong. This was in my very first 24-hour reading video. Honestly, clearly, according to this, they're perilous. I love doing that, but I have such big emotions for the books that I read during them, clearly. I remember being like almost done it and I called my mom and I was like, I was crying because I was like, this book means so much to so many people and I hate it, and I didn't really know how to come on the camera and say I didn't like this yet, and I learned that day. Never Lie by Frida McFadden. Honestly, I kind of wish, no, because I wanted to know what was gonna happen. Yeah, no, I literally don't really remember. I remember the plot of this like kind of pretty clear. This is probably my least favorite Frida McFadden book, and I've read a lot and I've only liked one. They're just not overly twisty and I don't really care. They're really quick, fun reads. I've listened to a lot of them on audio and they're fun. They are. I read The Housemaid and then I listened to another one, and then this was the first one that I listened to by her, and I was like, no, I literally hate this. It's so bad. I already didn't really like The Housemaid and now I hate this. So I feel very viscerally towards this book, but I just like completely blocked out the fact that I read it. I just am not a Frida McFadden girly, I think. There's only one book that I've read by her that hit the mark, that I was like, that got me, and it was really good. And the hit or miss of it stresses me out in terms of picking up another one. Magnolia Park's The Long Way Home, a reread. Obviously. As Good as Dead by Holly Jackson. This is the last book in the Good Girls Guide to Murder series. Honestly, no notes. This was the last book in the series, and it did what it needed to do, arguably so much. It did so much. It went so off the rails. I think my favorite thing about the Good Girls Guide to Murder series is the way that Pip's character devolves throughout the series feels very adult. It feels like an adult execution. It doesn't feel like a YA book. Pip as a character goes through so much, and like obviously it ends the way this ends, but it just was like so out of left field and so grim and dark that it was not a 6-star read for me. It was not a high 5. It was like a 4.75. I still loved it. I can't imagine the series ending any other way. It was just quite a shock. I am a really big road trip girly. I take an obscene amount of road trips. My boyfriend lives like 6 hours away, and my parents spend the summer like 13, I think it's more than that. I think it's like 18 hours away, and I always drive so I can bring Chance. So I'm a big audiobook girly, and this is the only Freida McFadden book that I will stand behind. It was so good. The twist got me so good, and the audiobook of it is very good. How many times can you say the word good? Honestly, take a shot every time I say the word. No, don't do that. That would end very messy for everyone involved. Done and Dusted by Lila Sage. Honestly, we were rooting for you. In the moment, I think I gave it like a 4.25. I've never ever thought about it again. No, literally never thought of it. I really thought it was gonna fill the Chestnut Springs hole in my heart, but just like realistically nothing can. It also felt very similar to Chestnut Springs to me, like a lot of it, like down to the father figure. Everything felt very similar. Because I love Chestnut Springs so much, it just felt less than in comparison to me. But I will be reading on in the series because they're easy and they're fun and they're enjoyable reads, but I was really hoping this had like a little bit more substance. I will say this had like a decent amount of emotional depth. It did. Didn't love it. And that's what makes reading fun. You can't sue me. Leather and Lark by Brynne Weaver. Again, we were rooting for you. We were, because Butcher and Blackbird was so good. It was so good. It was such an enjoyable reading experience. So out of left field. So not what I was expecting. The way that she does serial killer rom-coms, it's a lane of its own. No one can do it like her. This, however, the characters felt, they had no development. They were one way and then the page flipped and they were another way, and I just feel like I couldn't track it, and it was an enjoyable, fun reading experience, but breaking down the story, it wasn't executed like perfectly. I have a lot of hope for Scythe and Sparrow, which is the last book in the series, which does come out this year at some point. Yeah, not for me. It wasn't perfect. It was borderline just okay. The Atlas Complex by Olive Blake. Now, this is a 4.75 star read. However, it is god tier. Maybe it's a 5. I remember giving it a 4.75 because it's so long and it's so convoluted and it's so hard to understand. But this is like one of those series, this and Magnolia Parks are probably the series that like stick with me the most, that I think about the most often. I think about quotes in this series in perpetuity. These were the books by Olive Blake that made me think that she had the answers to the universe and that she's just trying to tell us in her books. Her writing feels pretentious in an it's important kind of way. Like I feel like these are books that will stand the test of time, even though they're crazy in their fantasy and all of that. Her writing is so highbrow and hard to understand and so worth it, and there's so much you have to pay attention to in the series. Like I still feel like I missed so much throughout the series, but the way the characters devolve and evolve and the things that happens between them and just everything that happens in the series is, in my opinion, some like genuine top tier writing and storytelling abilities. I just feel like her writing is just so miles and miles and miles above the average book that is coming out now in terms of the genuine like full circle existence of that series and that world and those characters. Like she just has this way of writing that is so captivating and gripping, but also incredibly hard to understand and feels rewarding when you finish it, is the best way I can explain it. And I think about this series so often. I will do a reread of this series one day, but it's so many words, it's crazy, and I feel like I need to reread it for me. I finish her books and I'm like, I need to stare at the wall for like 5 days because I feel like I'm depressed a little bit, but I also have like this new intense need to live. You know? Foxglove by Adeline Grace is no notes. Literally no notes. There is a before me and after me. No, I love this series so much. I think it is gothic dark fantasy dream. It's so well written. It's so fun. The sweet soft love of the characters on this in comparison with like the dark incorporeal existence of death and the dark buildings and everything. Like it just feels very well put together, and I care a lot about these characters. I think Wisteria has the chance to be like a really amazing final book in the series, and I think about these books all the time. Like I do, and I will recommend them with every fiber of my being, but I would not change anything in these books. I think they are perfect. Funny Story by Emily Henry. Now this is hard because this is probably my least favorite Emily Henry. They're all 5-star reads, and I finished Funny Story and I was like, maybe it's not a 5-star, but I sobbed at the end and I was like, no, I have really intense 5-star feelings for this. It's just the one I've thought about the least after finishing it. I feel like this is like kind of up there with People We Meet on Vacation, which is like kind of 4 it's a 5. They're 5s. They're all 5. The way Emily Henry makes me feel is just like literally unlike anybody else, but I probably connected to these characters the least. So for that reason, we're going would recommend. I don't have any notes, but I would really recommend this. I feel like Happy Place and Beach Read are like god tier books for me, and then Book Lovers is my no notes. So I feel like this is a would recommend, but I did really love it. Butcher and Blackbird, no notes, literally no notes at all. Did it change my life? No, definitely not. My life was not changed by it, but I mean, it was a little bit amazing, you know? I enjoyed the reading experience of this like nothing else, a serial killer rom-com, and it was so much better in contrast to Leather and Lark that I feel like I have a lot of love for it now. Hopeless. Okay, I still really enjoyed this, and the end of this book, the way it wraps up all of Chestnut Springs, I have so much love for this book. I have almost no love for this couple. I was so uncomfortable so many times reading this. I wanted to love it, and I really put it off for a really long time because I was like, some people like it, some people don't. I'm probably gonna like it because it's Elsie Silver. And then I got in there and I was like, oh, I don't understand how we got here. I understand and I respect their love story and I respect them as characters, but I don't love them. I don't, not even a little bit, and I was really rooting for them. However, she gave us Wild Eyes this year, so all is forgiven. She's still like one of my top authors ever. Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. There is a before this book me and an after this book me. Like probably some of the most I've ever sobbed reading a book. The way that this book wraps up the 3 interconnected standalones, oh, pain. Complete and utter pain. I am such a sentimental, overly emotional kind of person, and the way these 3 connected rip my heart out. Also, the way that Abby Jimenez does her emotional depth and romances is just like not like anybody else that I've ever read. The way that she will like pick, it feels like an idea or a topic, and she will give the characters opposite sides of that experience and have them teach each other is the best way I can explain it. They both have an issue and they're both dealing with very similar things, but they're on opposite sides of that, and whatever conclusion or sentiment the characters come to together, it's in opposition to each other, and the characters are so perfect for each other when they find each other. It's not like soulmates, it's not like perfect love, it's not you're perfect, it's you're the perfect piece for me when you met me, and that's why I would never ever give you up. And I don't know how she conveys that in English words. Brutal Prince by Sophie Lark. This is the first book in the, what is the series called? Savage Lovers series. Honestly, don't kill me. No notes. I have no notes on this. I enjoyed this so fucking much, and it was just like a funny time. I love that these books really are palate cleansers. Like they aren't dark and twisted and fucked up. They're just like kind of rom-coms where the characters happen to be in the mob and they happen to do mafia things, unalive people and stuff like that, and that just happens to be like part of the plot. It's like a little bit dark, like it's darker than like your typical rom-com, but it's not like, I wouldn't dare call it dark romance. It's not that dark. It's such a fun twist on a palate cleanser, and like I really bought into this couple. I did. I don't know why. 10,000 Stitches by Olivia Atwater is no notes. Literally no notes. I think that the last book in the series will also be a 5-star for me. Half a Soul was a 6-star, and I know you know that because a lot of you guys take me and stuff reading that book. I think that book deserves like all the love in the world. It's so quirky and weird and unique, and I love every single thing about it. And 10,000 Stitches was just that carried forward. The characters in this one are very sweet. This book is very sweet and soft, which is honestly in quite an opposition to Half a Soul and like the way we get to know the characters in this world in Half a Soul, because the sweetness of Half a Soul isn't found in like periphery characters. This one was very cute, and I did really like it, and the sentiment of this book felt even like stronger stitched throughout. I wasn't trying to make a pun, the fact that it's about stitches, but like it's genuinely about stitches because she loves to embroider. It's just so good. Okay, Stolen Air by Sophie Lark. We were rooting. No, I would recommend it. I would. I just think it's like a fun little palate cleanser time. I didn't buy this one quite as much. I couldn't get over the fact that she flipped on a dime. Like he really did kidnap you and do all of that shit, and she was like, but I love him. Like it was giving a tiny bit too much Stockholm Syndrome to be like cute, fun rom-com energy, but it was entertaining. It was good, and I mean I did kind of buy them by the end. I did. So I would recommend it. Love Unwritten by Lauren Asher. It was really good. I did love it. Tried to convince everyone in my real life to read it after I finished it. Honestly, there is a before me and after me version of this book. I loved this one. I think this book made me realize that I can get behind some slow burn. I really just connected to the characters in this. I don't have any explanation for why, but I loved it. Like, it was a resounding 5-star read. I knew it was gonna be a 5. This is also one of those books that, like, the kid added so much. Like, you cannot convince me that Nico is not a real kid out in the world that I can send all of my love and energy to, because I'm doing that right now actively, because that's a real fucking human. Those are real fucking humans, and they have real fucking emotions, and there's just no way they're not real. Yeah, that book changed me a little bit. Yeah, it did. Lights Out by Navessa Allen. I honestly don't really remember it. It wasn't amazing. It was funny and it was good and it was an enjoyable time. So entirely completely forgettable. And I also feel like I realized when it comes to like a dark romance, I wanted to have like some overarching goodness. That's not what I mean. Not goodness necessarily. A dark romance for me has to have like a commentary on why it's so dark. Does that make sense? I just feel like I didn't connect to this at all. Like, I feel like when you have a dark romance that is exploring themes that are darker for a reason to bring about conversation, that's great, but this just kind of felt dark for dark's sake. I think the funny mixed with the dark romance-ness just didn't work perfectly for me, but the audiobook of this was really good. Like, it was entertaining, even though I was like a couple of times while I was driving and listening to it, because I was like, ooh, no, actually don't want to listen to that. Throttled by Lauren Asher. Honestly, we were rooting for you. We were. I think this whole series is gonna be just kind of okay. Because like, this is okay. It was good. It was enjoyable. But the thing that was good about this book was the F1-ness. Like, not the romance per se. And also, like, this is Lauren Asher's first series. She's become one of my favorite romance authors, clearly. Her most recent release is in my God tier list. But this was her very first book. And like, it feels like her very first book. Not obsessed. The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King. I'm gonna put it in would recommend, because I have some notes. I have a tiny bit of notes for this. I thought this book was a slump. I didn't know if it was the book or if I was in a slump. I literally felt like I was just reading words on paper for a good portion of it, but then the end of it changed my life. I have memories of that final battle scene burned into my memory, which I understand they're just words on paper and I made those images up in my own head. They're real to me and I think about them all of the time, but the first half of this book I kind of did struggle to get through, which makes me really sad because Krista Bodman is one of my favorite fantasy authors of all time, and I think what she did and is doing with this series is unlike anything else. The way that she strings together so many very, very different stories and what feels like worlds into this one series and these duets, and the fact that this was Enemies to Lovers done a second time in a second book to perfection. Like, I wouldn't even know how to attempt to do that. She did it so well. I just found the first half of it crazy. It was like very hard to get into. I felt like I was literally picturing nothing for a hot minute, and then I was like, oh, no, I'm good now. The Hunted Heir, I should have DNF'd. Should have fucking DNF'd. I fucking wish I DNF'd it. I viscerally hate this series, and I don't viscerally hate very many things. I read the first book and I was halfway through it, and in full transparency, I was filming a 24-hour reading video and I was starting a finishing series video the next day, so I was like, oh, I could maybe read the second book in this series for that video, and that is the only reason I bought the second book and the only reason it ended up being read. Nothing fucking happened. It could have been 30 pages long. The best way I can describe this book is when you ask someone what the plot of a book is and they tell you, like, it's about this and it's enemies to lovers and he says this. It's all you need to know. That feels like what happened. That's the only way I can explain it. The Naturals by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. Would recommend. It's not an amazing first book, but it really captivated me and it made me keep going. And then Killer Instinct, I have no notes on. It was very good. It was not as good in my eyes as All In, but it was very good. The Fake Mate. Honestly, I don't remember reading this. I read Bride and then everyone was like, you need to get into the Omegaverse, and this was the book that I picked up. I have no recollection of it. I remember there being like 30 straight pages of Omegaverse related smut that I literally felt out of body reading. Like, what is going on? How did I end up here in life? What decisions ended up for me to end up here in life? And no disdain towards literally anything. I can so get behind the Omegaverse shit. I love Bride. I loved it. The whole nodding situation still freaked me out, I'm not gonna lie. Loved it. Was a 6-star read. This, fever dream. I don't even remember reading it. The Invisible Life by Addie LaRue. Honestly, for me, it's a would recommend because I didn't overly connect to it. I wanted to love it more. I feel like the ending could have been driven home a little bit more. And I've heard that note given by other people, so I feel a little bit less crazy since finishing it because I really thought this would be 100% up my alley. Not my most favorite read of the year. It just felt like it could have done more, at least for me. The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston. God tier, one of my favorite reads of the year. I like this pretty much just as much as I like the 7 Year Slip. This is probably like a 5.5 if the 7-Year Slip is a 6-star read. That's the best way I can explain it. I don't know why I connected to these characters the way that I did, but I just felt so much for both the love story in this and our main character's growth in it. I know a lot of people love the 7-Year Slip and then did not like a novel love story and don't like the dead romantic. I can't relate. I literally can't relate. Six of Crows, this is a reread. I listened to it with the anticipation that I would read Crooked Kingdom this year, because last year I read Six of Crows and listened to Crooked Kingdom, and I want to annotate Crooked Kingdom. However, I just listened to this. I never ended up rereading Crooked Kingdom. Still, honestly, no notes, because Crooked Kingdom is better, but this is still really, really good. And it was better the second time around once I had like the knowledge of the world, because I found the first like 150 pages, reading it without having read Shadow and Bone, I was a little bit like, literally what the fuck is going on. Good Girl, Bad Blood by Holly Jackson, the second book in A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. This is my favorite. This one did so much, but not too much. And I still think As Good as Dead needed to do too much, but this is my favorite from the series, and this series lives rent-free, so it's obviously a god tier book. Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. Honestly, no notes. This is another book that found me at the wrong time. I was reading it kind of on and off for like 2 weeks, just like when life got really crazy, but in retrospect, like there's nothing I would change. It was very, very well executed. I'm really excited to go into Hellbent. I just like didn't immerse myself in it the way that I wish I could have, because I really think this could be a god tier book for me upon the reread that I will eventually do one of these days, because I loved the story and it was dark and it was adult, and there was a lot of things Leigh Bardugo could have done with the story that would have made it less dark, and she didn't stray from going there. She went there, and I think that it made the book a lot more impactful. Bride by Ellie Hazelwood, 6 stars. I have no comment. I have no explanation. I don't know why. If I knew, I'd have all the answers to the universe, okay? I don't know why. It just was so good. I was kicking my feet and giggling so much. Summer Romance, no notes. Literally none at all. I loved this book. I loved it. I just wish it was a tiny bit longer. I remember thinking that. Like, it was kind of like too short and sweet, but I love the way that Anna Monaghan writes, and this is my first book by her. It's probably tied with Same Time Next Summer. I think they're both immaculate 4.75 star reads. I just didn't get like crazy 5-star feelings from them, but like I'm positive I will get a 5-star from her one day, because the way that she writes is so beautiful. It's so quippy and short. She's amazing like one-liners that are just like very impactful, and she has stuff in her books that like moves forward, like little things that she says throughout the book that just like ties everything together very neatly. It's very well executed writing. Not in Love by Ellie Hazelwood, would recommend. It's not like my favorite Ellie Hazelwood book. I don't totally remember how I feel about it. I did like it. It was super spicy, but I did really buy the characters, which is like all I really ever want out of an Ellie Hazelwood book, is to feel funny, cute banter from like crazy witty characters, which you'll get pretty much every single time, and we did not miss in Not in Love. It was 100% there. Half a Soul, obviously god tier. I think about it all the time. I fear I will get a tattoo for this book one day because of how much it changed me as a person. I don't know how I connected to this as much as I did. I don't know what it says about me that I had the most fun reading time ever reading about this, because it is so quirky and funny and weird, but it also tackles a lot of topics very well. It's very well executed. I can't lie. I have a lot of love for this series, and I cannot believe it's not like one of the top reads of the year, because I think everyone would love it. Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson. Should have DNF'd. Hated it. I hated it. I actually said that I hated it in one of my most recent TikToks, where I like finally said the books that I hated from the year, and someone commented saying I actually read all 3 books, and spoiler, literally when they finally solved this case that doesn't matter, it still doesn't matter. Cracked me up, because like that's exactly what I got from it, and if I was thinking about finishing the rest of the series, I'm not going to now. Addicted by Kristen Becker Ritchie. I still have not really moved forward with this series. I would honestly, I was rooting for it. I think I will really love the series if I can get myself to continue on with it, but I do kind of feel like I just missed the wave on it a little bit, and it's just not going to be for me. But I do think if I really get in there, I'm gonna love it. It just felt kind of half-baked, which is fine because it's quite an old book. It's the first book of like 9 books in a series, and from what I can tell, most people have the same experience reading the first book and then really fall in love with it later on. Same Time Next Summer, no notes, loved it. Honestly, I think I connected to this story more than I did Summer Romance. Both executed perfectly, and I still really feel a lot for these characters. It's like one of those like perfect summer reads that carries the right amount of weight, that it's not like leaving you in shambles, but you're thinking, and it's like a good enjoyable time. 7-Year Slip, my baby, one of my favorite books of the entire year, one of my favorite books probably of my entire life. One of the girls in my book club actually got a book signed and sent to me. I don't think I've ever cried my eyes out the way that I cried my eyes out with that. Literally one of the most beautiful things that I've ever received in my entire life. This book changed me on a molecular level. I could talk about it for an hour. I could write an essay, and I talk about it a lot, so I will spare you. Killjoy, this is like a little hip novella. It's actually 0.5 to The Girl's Guide to Murder. It was fine. It wasn't great, but like I would recommend it if you read the rest of the series, because it's a fun time. It was like a murder mystery dinner party. I don't know why it exists, but like, it was cute. One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. Honestly, would recommend. I really like the series, but I don't think about it as much as I thought I would. But I remember loving the reading experience of it. It just hasn't stuck with me in a way. I think it stuck with a lot of people, but I would recommend it with everything in me. I so enjoyed it, and I think that most people will really enjoy it. It's like the perfect dark gothic fantasy, and it's such a unique magic system and world. Ricochet, honestly, I don't remember. I know that it's like just a little novella and it's just basically we're following the girl, but I don't remember reading it at all. And it wasn't great. It wasn't. It was fine. Love on the Brain was one of my favorite Ellie Hazelwood books, which is crazy because it's one of her earlier books, but I connected to these characters so much. But the ending of it was like a little bit outlandish, but I think that's so Ellie Hazelwood and I really liked it. I care about these characters a lot, and Love Theoretically is still definitely my favorite Ellie Hazelwood book, but like this is up there with that. I thought it was so good. Pumpkin Spice Cafe, I literally don't remember reading this. Literally don't remember what it's about. It's like cute, fun fall vibe, but like substance is not there. She can create an ambiance. That's all I have to say. I don't have anything else. Into the Dark, obviously, God tier. Favorite book of the year. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Anytime we get anything from Jessamine Nolly and Daisy related, I just fear it's gonna be God tier books because I go into her books with tears ready to go. Like I'm crying about what we already know about these real life humans because, like I said, these characters are real life humans. There's no way they're not real. There's literally no way these characters are not real. It would be crazy of me to think about them as much as I do if they're not real. So they have to be real. It's the only answer. This summer will be different. Honestly, no notes. I really liked this when I read it, and I didn't like Meet Me at the Lake by Kelly Fortune. I actually almost viscerally hated it. I loved this one. I thought the romance was really cute. I really thought I was gonna be able to fight the sun going down, but I couldn't. So quick lighting change. I thought the plot was fun. It did what it was supposed to do. It wasn't like jaw-dropping in any way, shape, or form. However, the reading experience was really special for me because the main character literally lives in like a similar area to me in Toronto with her best friend, which I live with my best friend, and I've spent my summers growing up in Prince Edward Island, which is the island that this book is based on, and she goes to because her best friend grew up there. So just so many moments of it felt so close to home, and that part was emotional, and I think that's why I loved it so much. But I do think the story stands on its own as being like a fun summary read. Where's Molly by H.G. Carlton. This is the spin-off from the Cat and Mouse duet, Haunting and Hunting Adeline. I don't remember reading it. I don't remember how I feel about it. I don't remember anything. I do remember that her job was to dispose of bodies because she took care of the pig. It was dark. It was dark, but I mean, it's H.G. Carlton. We're not expecting anything different. I also remember really loving the last little bit and how it like really tied in to Haunting and Hunting Adeline. Honestly, the way this ties into Haunting and Hunting Adeline was a very good book to tie into that series. I just like have literally never thought about it ever since finishing it. I don't even remember reading it. The Veiled Kingdom, I should have DNF'd it. I should have. I'm putting you with The Hunted Heir. Yeah, because both bad. Things I never got over. Would recommend. I would recommend it. I had a lot of fun reading this, a lot more than I was expecting. It was an easy read and it didn't feel 500 pages long. It was not life-changing, and there was some humor in it that just felt like unnecessary, like kind of, I said millennial humor in the video that I posted about this, and I got so many comments saying that I was disrespectful for saying that. I literally mean it in the definable haha, I can't do anything until I have my coffee kind of way, which I know that I sometimes say. I haven't had any caffeine yet and that's why I can't speak. There's no other way to explain it. It just felt like kind of millennial humor, and that's fine. It was still really good, and I don't have anything against millennials or millennial humor. It was just the best way to explain the kind of humor in this book. None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. Honestly, no notes. I thought this story was really cool and it made me fall in love with Lisa Jewell. I have listened to a lot of Lisa Jewell since then, and I really love the way that she tells the story. I think it is so interesting. What makes her books, I think, so good is that you know where the story is going to go pretty much right from the beginning. Nothing is shocking. However, you get to the end and you sit back and you're like, so that was really good storytelling, and literally what the fuck, which is kind of fun in a thriller. Like, it's not like crazy twisty and turny, it's more like realistic, which makes it scarier a little bit, you know? Hotel Nantucket by Ellen Hildebrand. No notes. I remember Larry said in a video, oh my god, the grannies are onto something, and like there's no better way to explain it. It's so gossip, it's so small town, it's so fun. It does what it needs to do, and it does what it does very well. And the way that it's interconnected and the fact that there was like a ghost in it and stuff, no notes. I think it was so fun, but it's not like life-changing in any way, shape, or form. They're like feel-good reads, which they're a beach read. A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, no notes. I don't have any notes for A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. I really liked it. It made me fall in love with the YA true crime S genre after The Naturals, and made me realize there was more out there. And I really thought when I started this that I just like kind of missed the hype on it. It was gonna be very YA, and it wasn't. I really love these characters, and starting it was what made me fall in love with the series. So I can't put the first book low because it brought me to how I felt in the next two books. And then with all of Holly Jackson's books after that. Wild Love, honestly, I would recommend Wild Love. I just didn't connect to it a lot. It was not my favorite of L.C. Silver's. It could have done more. I just have never thought about Rosie and Ford after finishing it, and I liked them more in Wild Eyes. like the second book, like when they were making cameos. But it was fun, it was cute. It wasn't my favorite Elsie Silver ever. I think that's what's fun about interconnected standalones, is everyone resonates with one of the books differently. Like everyone's favorite book is very different because it's the characters you resonate with the most, and that's what makes it fun. The God of the Woods changed my fucking life. It changed my fucking life, and it changed how I will read this year, because I never thought a historical fiction, literary fiction, mystery-esque thriller book would do what it did to me. I think what this book did is amazing. It is so long and the story is so well developed. I actually gave it to my aunt and my mom for Christmas, and my aunt just finished it the other day and was texting me and was like, I will be recommending this to literally everyone. It's based in the 1970s in the Adirondack Mountains, where a very, very wealthy daughter has gone missing on the family's reserve that has a camp on it. And there's just so many interesting POVs and timelines, and you feel so many visceral emotions for the characters. But the number one thing I feel like that book did very well is like this feeling of resignation. Like things happen and life is hard and you just have to be resigned to it. And it's just so of the times. Like one of my favorite point of views was a cop that we followed that was the very first female detective, and how she was treated on this case and how she felt about this case. And there were times that you were dealing with this case and we were talking about this case, and the cops were trying to talk about very sad true crime experiences and trying to solve this case and connecting it to their own children at home and their own family, which I feel like is a perspective you most often don't get when it comes to like true crime and mysteries in general. And it just feels like very well thought out. Like if you told me 5 people wrote this book, not just one person, like that's how interconnected it is, wrote it, I would believe you. When the Moon Hatched, honestly, no. It's like pretty much a 6-star read, but I think the next one's gonna be even better. I do, because what this book did, it did immaculately. It did. I think what this book does in balancing a perfect fantasy world plot reading experience with a perfect romance. It's basically 2 books in one. You could take the fantasy out and it would be an amazing romance. You can take the romance out and it would be amazing fantasy. But together, they just so hold their own. And I think a lot of people don't resonate with this book because if you're not a visual reader and you can't picture a lot of the world, it's hard to get into. But if you're a visual reader, it's one of those books that's just going to change your life, because the world is huge. And once you buy into it, it's going to change your life. The Inmate by Frida McFadden should have DNF'd. Nothing happened that shocked me, and I was just bored and I didn't care. Then She Was Gone by Lisa Jewell, no notes. I thought it was really good. I liked it just as much as I liked None of This Is True. I think I might have liked it even better at the time. I think about them at equal level now. The way that she does her mysteries is just really fun, because you're like in it with them and you understand what's going on, and they're just such out there stories, but they read realistic. It's an unsettling experience. A Curse for True Love, would recommend. I didn't dislike it as much as a lot of people disliked it. I don't have like any visceral feelings towards it, to be honest. I thought it was a pretty good end to the story, but it made me realize how short and like lacking more story and substance and romance the whole series is. I would recommend the series. It's a very fun reading experience, and these characters live very fondly in my heart, along with the characters from Caraval. But like, I don't feel changed having read it. I just like really enjoyed the reading experience. Happily Ever After by Lynn Painter, I would recommend. I had a lot of fun reading it in the time, but I haven't thought about it a lot since finishing it. We're basically following this girl that's supposed to get married, and her friend hires this objector because she knows she doesn't want to marry him. They end up becoming really close, and she ends up objecting at weddings as well, because if you didn't know, if someone objects at your wedding, when they say speak now or forever hold your peace or whatever, someone objects, you can't get married that day. I don't know why that's the case. However, you can't get married that day, and sometimes people don't want to get out of their weddings in a normal way. They get out with objections. I thought it was fun, and it was probably my favorite Lynn Painter that I've read. It was a really enjoyable reading experience, like a really good beach read experience. The Friend Zone by Abby Jimenez is probably a would recommend. I think going into her first interconnected standalone series, after reading the second and what's come out since then, it feels very different and it feels younger, like it feels like an earlier work, but I wouldn't change anything about her characters or what she did in it. This story feels like quirkier and funnier, this whole interconnected standalone series, but I still really enjoyed it, and they're really good audiobooks. Abby Jimenez's audiobooks always convey how you think the characters would sound in voice, which is really fun, because sometimes you read an audiobook and you're like, Abby Jimenez's characters are always very funny, and then the emotional depth, they just feel like real humans. Powerless by Lauren Roberts honestly is a 6-star read for me, but no notes. It's not like completely changed my life. I think about the characters all of the time, but there's nothing like life-changing. It's just very well done, and I love it. I think about Kai and Payton all of the time, and I am so excited for Fearless. It's not even funny. And then Reckless, on the other hand, we were rooting for you, sweetheart. We really were. I was so fucking rooting for you. It was good and it was fun and it was fine and it did what it was supposed to do well. It's just like, I was expecting so much more, which I think everyone was. So I was disappointed a little bit, but I trust Lauren Roberts and I trust her vision, and I trust that if you read all 3 of the books in succession, it wouldn't feel as bad waiting for more in this story, especially what the last line in that book does. Powerful, no notes. Tore my heart out, made me feel a bajillion things. Sad, the biggest one. Yeah, like just like visceral tears. Two Twisted Crowns, no notes. It was better than One Dark Window. It was very good and it was very well executed. The story is so interesting and dark and twisted, and it's just better in Two Twisted Crowns than it is One Dark Window. I wouldn't change anything about it. Satan's Affair by H.G. Carlton. This is another spin-off of the Cat and Mouse duet. I should have DNF'd it. It made me very fucking uncomfortable knowing what we know about this character from Haunting and Hunting Adeline and what you find out at the end of it. It just made me viscerally uncomfortable. That one was not for me. Listen for the Lie by Amy Tintera. Honestly, probably my favorite thriller of the entire year. And listening to it on audio was a much better experience than just reading it. Probably my favorite audiobook I've ever listened to. It was amazing. And the twist in the story in this, and just like the storyline in general, everything about this book was perfect for a mystery thriller. And it will be my favorite, I think, in perpetuity until I find something better, which feels impossible. A Novel Love Story by Ashley Poston would be no notes. I wouldn't change anything about it. It just is my least favorite of hers so far. I found the romance like a little bit harder to buy, and I think about these characters the least, but I still, like, the reading experience was still perfect. The way that she writes just feels like perfect for me as an overly sentimental, annotate everything kind of person. And I think if you're like that, you will love everything that Ashley Poston writes. The Unmaking of June Farrow. I'm gonna do would recommend. This is a book that I want to reread because I think it is a book that I would feel God tier about if I could have turned my brain off a little bit. There was a little bit about the logistics of the story that I was too locked in on and I couldn't really figure out. And then I realized that the book had passed me and I missed the emotional aspects of it, which made me really sad. So when I forget enough about it, I will definitely reread it. It just found me at the wrong time, and I would recommend it to literally everyone. It was such an impactful, well-written story. I was just trying to figure out the logistics of things too often, and then I was like, it's over. And I missed the part that was gonna make me cry. Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez. I still can't believe that I got to read this already. 6 stars, God tier book. My favorite Abby Jimenez book to date, I think. I think Just for the Summer and Say You'll Remember Me are tied. They were just standalones, and Just for the Summer didn't connect back to the first books in the interconnected standalone series. Say You'll Remember Me would just like take the cake with no questions about it. If you're an overly sentimental memories kind of person, gear up. Gear up, yeah, gonna tear your heart out. I just felt so seen by this book. I am so for the memes, do it for the memories, make time for people, remember these small moments kind of person. This tore my heart out in a way I really can't explain. I think I sobbed at the 10% mark, the 20% mark, the 50% mark, the 60, 70, 80, 90, and 100% mark. So, Kingdom of the Wicked would recommend. I enjoyed this series. I'm excited to see where it goes. I still have not read on. I'm like halfway through the second book and have been for months, but I really want to get to Throne of the Fallen. So this is like high priority to get to soon. I thought the story was really well developed and fun, and it was felt dark for being adult, and I enjoyed it. I just honestly kind of forgot that I was reading it, to be honest. Ruthless Vows by Rebecca Ross is no notes. It is. I think Divine Rivals would be like God tier for me, and I'm not of the camp that I thought Ruthless Vows was worse. I really liked what Ruthless Vows did. I haven't thought about it a ton since finishing it. It's definitely not like a God tier book for me, but I have no notes. I wouldn't change anything about it. I loved what Ruthless Vows did. Belladonna by Adeline Grace. Again, no notes. Goes with Foxglove up here. No notes, literally at all. I love this series so much. It's like one of the shining stars that came out of 2024 for me. I wasn't expecting to like it as much as I did, but I loved it. 7 Days in June by Tia Williams. I literally don't remember reading this, and I know so many people love it, and I remember loving it. Don't for the life of me remember what it is about. I must have read it in a fever dream. I think I will reread it one day because I remember how annotated my copy was. Like, I really did love the story. I just literally don't remember what happened. Same with The Risk, the first book in the Mindfuck series. Until I was downloading all of these, completely forgot that I started this series in February, and I have been thinking actively, like, I really want to read the Mindfuck series, not even realizing that I'd read the first book. I have no explanation for that. However, it is on my 2025 TBR. Love Redesigned by Lauren Asher. This is the first book in the Lakefront Billionaire series. This comes before Love Unwritten. I would recommend it. It wasn't my favorite book ever. I enjoyed it a lot more than I was anticipating to enjoy it, but I love Love Unwritten so many mountains above the way I love this one. So I would recommend it. It didn't change my life, and I didn't think about it a ton after finishing it, whereas I think about Love Unwritten semi-frequently, like an embarrassing amount probably. No Way Parks, No Way Fans or Butts. Heartless Hunter, no notes. No, Heartless Hunter would recommend. I gave that book a 4.75, and in the moment I was like, I cannot for the life of me figure out where I'm docking this 0.25 from. I just didn't get 5-star feelings, but I think I will later on in the series, and I have actually had the pleasure of already reading the second book in this, and in that case, that is a very strong 5-star. Yeah, Rebel Witch was amazing. I feel like Heartless Hunter walked so that Rebel Witch could win the Boston Marathon. So good. One of my favorite YA duologies ever now, and I cannot wait for people to get their hands on it and start reading it, because what she did in that, I just feel like it was executed to perfection. My December Darling by Laura Nasher. No notes. I wouldn't change anything about it. I wouldn't. It was a cute, fun little time. And honestly, anything in the Lakefront Billionaire series, I'm gonna read now. And I love the Lake Wisteria world, and I really liked these characters, and this love story was really sweet. And it didn't scream Christmas, which is like my favorite type of Christmas book. Daisy Hates, God tier, no questions about it. What are we even doing here rating these? We know they're at the top. Immortal Dark, no. I loved this. And I went on Goodreads and was shocked that other people weren't loving it. And I see their criticisms and I raise you, I don't agree. It didn't feel YA, it felt dark. I'm so excited to see what happens in this world and where it goes from here, and the way that this leaves on a cliffhanger, I'm angry. And the reading experience was so enjoyable. Like, this just was, for me, a really strong 4.5, 4.75. No. 5 Survive by Holly Jackson. I literally don't remember reading this. It was my least favorite of hers, and I didn't like it. I didn't hate it. It was still like a fun time, but it was my least favorite, like by a mile in comparison to everything else she has written. Era of Broken Fate by Mads Rafferty. Would recommend. I thought it was a fun read. It has so many cool fantasy elements in it. It's kind of everything you want out of a romantasy. I just haven't gotten around to reading further in the series. I just completely forgot that I had an unread book by her. The Gilded Cage by Lynette Noni. Honestly, would recommend. I recommend The Prison Healer a lot. I just think if you're the type of person who really hates being told things in books versus being shown them, this series is a really big culprit of that, and it pisses me off because the story is so good, but it just like lacks something because you're just told so much instead of discovering it alongside the characters. I don't know how to explain it. This is the second book in the series and it was better than the first. Still like just okay, but I would recommend it because I love the story. I just don't love how it's executed. The Happy Ever After Playlist by Abby Jimenez is the second book in her first Interconnected standalone series. I would recommend it. I don't think it's my favorite book by her by any means. I think I like this actually less than I like The Friend Zone, but I recommend reading everything she writes because she's a mastermind. The Most Wonderful Crime of the Year by Ellie Carter. The Christmas book that made me realize I need to go back and read her entire backlog because the way that she developed the story was shocking to me. I loved it. It was literally Knives Out in a book and make it Christmassy, but not overly Christmassy, the right amount of Christmassy. 5 stars. The Spell Shop by Sarah Beth Durst. Would recommend. I thought it was really cute and cozy and fun. It hasn't stuck with me a lot and it felt like a teeny bit too long, but I really enjoyed the world and the story and everything. It actually was genuinely very cozy. Wild Eyes by Elsie Silver. This is the second book in the Rose Hill series. Comes after Wild Love. Liked it so much more than I liked Wild Love. I loved it. I know some people didn't connect to this one. I, however, really connected to this one, and I didn't think I would because of the whole like pop star aspect of it. But yeah, no, Wes has burned a place in my brain. Yeah, and this whole series is single dad trope, and the children in this book made it so much better. Slipped and Saddled. We were rooting for you. We were rooting for you because I remember reading it and I remember not loving it. Yeah, not my favorite romance ever, and I like it so much less than I like Done and Dusted. I really thought it was gonna go up, but I will be reading Lost and Lassoed because I do want that storyline. Yeah, because we've been waiting for it since book 1. Spectacular. Honestly, we were rooting for you. It did nothing. It did literally nothing. It didn't do anything that I thought it was gonna do. It was cute and fun to spend the time with the characters after having been in that world for so long. It just was 98% pictures. Like, there were literally 100 words in that book total. But if you've read Caraval, I do think you should read it. The Songbird in the Heart of Stone. Honestly, injected in my veins. There is a before this book me and an after this book me. I didn't think that she could do what she did with this world until I read this. And my feelings towards this series and Carissa Broadbent now is that she has so many beautiful, amazing, convoluted, complex fantasy stories, and instead of just making them all standalones where the characters are all new people, she connected all of them in these duology stories that are just beautiful. She does something different every single time, and how different this story is than The Serpent, the Wings of the Night, and The Ashen Starker's King is shocking, but it ties into the world so well. It was so well developed. Quicksilver by Kelly Hart. Okay, I'm gonna put it in would recommend because I have notes, bitch. I have fucking notes. The first quarter of that book is like 4 stars, fun. And then the next 50% is like, I want to pull my hair out. What the fuck is happening? Tell our main character anything. Give her any information. But then the next 10%, 5 stars, so good. The last 10%, I doubt that equaled 100. I know it didn't. I know it didn't. I never said I was good at math. However, that last little percentage, 6 stars, amazing. I had such a visceral image in my brain of what was going on, and the fact that you spent so much time with the characters, I appreciate the time we spent with them. I think we could have cut like at least 100 pages out of the middle, so that is my note, but I would recommend it, and I can't fucking wait for the second book in that series. King of Wrath, honestly probably should have DNF'd. I didn't like it. I don't remember reading it. It was very early in the year and I have not read any Anna Huang since then, so clearly it turned me off a little bit. Blood Trader, this is the last book in the Prison Healer series. I'll put it with Gilded Cage. I would recommend. It's a fun series. I just don't love the way that it's written. And last but not least, this was actually my very first book club book pick, which was August's book club read, which is kind of a serendipitous book to end on because the book club has become one of my favorite places in the entire world and I love connecting with you guys over there and being able to chat with you guys. I'm gonna put it in would recommend. I don't really remember totally how I feel about it, but I remember feeling very warm and cozy and there being a couple of tears, and I thought it was really funny and quirky and a cute little rom-com experience. On that note, this is every single book that I read minus one because I still don't know what book is not on this list, even though I cross-referenced the entire list and I still have no idea what one book is missing. This is pretty much all of the books that I read this year tier ranked. We had some really truly amazing reads this year and I feel like it's only up from here. I also feel like I have taken up far too much of your time because I know that I said that I was only going to say like one sentence about every single one of these books and I definitely really yap. I read some amazing books this year and I want you to read them next year so that you can put them in your God tier next year, hopefully. And on that note, thank you for spending some of your day with me. Let me know what your guys' favorite books from 2024 were, or if we have any corresponding God tier books, because there really are some books from this year that there is a before that book me and an after that book me. So they just like will live with me for the rest of my life. Let me know what yours were from this year and I hope to see you in the next one. Love you. Bye. I fear I actually just filmed for 4.5 hours about these books, so I'm sorry editing Maddie.